Good day to you, Mr. Bemis.
Good day, and what a lovely day it is to discuss Star Trek.
Yes. What a lovely spring day, as we are now in the spring, perhaps, of season 5 of Discovery.
Okay, Shakespeare. Now is the spring of our season 5 made glorious summer by some behind-the-scenes explanation of what the Breen have been.
Right. And what they can be.
What the Breen have been and what they can be. Indeed.
Lots of Eastery Easter eggs.
Yeah, this one had some big reveals. Very exciting stuff.
Let's start the show.
Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Yes, indeed, and welcome into Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast. We're discussing Star Trek Discovery, Season 5, the spring of Season 5.
Season 5.
Oof. Season 5, Episode 5. Mirrors. See, 5, mirror. See, I think it's a cute little, the 5 and the 5 are 2.
Ah, I see. Mirror.
Yeah, they're mirrored. I'm sure that was deliberate. But also, we go back to the mirror universe, sort of.
Sort of.
We know that the mirror universe the universes have been drifting apart, and so travel between them is impossible now. And yet, here's a little tidbit. I'm excited. I was excited by it.
And we travel into interdimensional space yet again.
It's got to go to interdimensional space.
Is it? Because we went there in Voyager with species 13579 or whatever.
83579.
Yep.
6575. Yeah.
And Enterprise, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
yes,
it?
Enterprise. I don't think there was interdimensional space in TNG.
No. DS9?
No, there was a wormhole. You could be inside of it and weird things were happening, but they didn't call it interdimensional space.
Okay, so this is the third trek into interdimensional space, literally and figuratively, if you're counting trek 2 ways.
Wordplay. Let's run it down. It's time to run it down. Can you run it down for me? What just happened? Can you run it down for me? It would be my pleasure. We begin with book. Oh, yeah. Doing a book slug. He has a lot of book. Oh, yeah moments in this episode. Basically, we are where we left off. They're still at the Janal coordinates is what we'll call them. They're trying to figure out where Moll and L'ak went. They're recovering from the effects of the time bug. And Book is contemplating how will he reach out to Moll/Malene as he is the mentee of her absentee father, Book Lind Cleaver IV. Tilly and Stamets get on the bridge and they explain, if you change the filter on the screen, you can see that the space is not empty. In fact, there's this huge chundering freaking wormhole thing. Not quite a sky anus, but I mean, so
Sky anus.
It's not one. It's a wormhole that keeps opening and closing, not quite a pulsar. And that is where Moll and L'ak's trail goes. And so Michael's like, great, prepare a shuttle. We'll try to hold comms. And the away team is me and Book. So we don't want to spook these two bounty hunters / couriers. And she gives Rayner the conn.
Rayner asks to have a conversation with her in private, and basically Michael is able to discern that Rayner might be a little tentative about taking over the conn and would rather go on the away mission, but Michael has decided that this is the way it's going to be, and she believes that Rayner is up to the task, and he has his orders. The shuttle heads into the wormhole. Michael and Book talk about how Book is going to be able to reach Moll, and he thinks that, perhaps there'll be some way to connect over the memory of his mentor and her father. The wormhole is a pretty disastrous, shaky thing with lots of interdimensional space. I don't want to say roughage. What's the thing you do? Turbulence. And it's rough turbulence, rough air, and the ship manages to get through. Disco's back on the other side, but they lose connection with the shuttle, and there's a lot of interference because of the interdimensional space with like their holopads and communications and stuff like that. So the shuttle is for the time being on its own. Meanwhile, what they discover is there's a lot of debris here in this exotic matter wormhole. A lot of ships. They see Moll and L'ak's ship looking pretty destroyed and jacked up, and then they look the other way. And they see the ISS Enterprise, the Enterprise of the Mirror Universe. So now, there's this Terran ship there that's damaged. It is very damaged. It looks like it has been sitting there for a while. As we said before, travel between the universes hasn't been possible for centuries. Why would the next clue from these mercurial scientists of 800 years ago be here? But they look for a place to dock. Meanwhile, back on Disco, Tilly's trying to boost comms. She runs into Culber. Culber seems a little bit out of sorts, and Tilly says, hey, you're there for everyone else. I'm there to talk. And he says, I'll find you later, because she's busy. Stamets and Adira are working on calculations to try and figure out how to keep the wormhole open so the ship can come back and to get the communications going and so on and so forth. Stamets has to give Adira a bit of a pep talk. That's not their fault about the time bug, even though, they were the one that brought it on board. Like, it could have been anybody. So part of the confidence, Adira is dealing with confidence issues. Rayner comes in and he's like, I need you to fix the thing in the thing. And he doesn't want to know how the cake is boiled, but he does sort of want to know how the cake is boiled. But Rayner gives him a vote of confidence in his Rayner way, in that he says, just do it, and walks away. In the wormhole, we're on the Enterprise. Holopad's still not working. Michael uses her Terran codes from her Terran self, and those are not working. But looking around the ship is distracted, thinking about Spock, and wonders if his Terran version was as ruthless as his non-Terran version. Book manages to hack the mainframe, as we used to say in the 90s about hacking, because we didn't know anything. They find out that the intermix chamber has been ejected and the shuttle pods and everything have been ejected. So there was a full evacuation of this damaged ship, which in Terran culture would be the very last resort. So why is that? Meanwhile, Michael finds 3 life signatures in the sickbay. Moll, L'ak, and a clue. Ooh. As they're headed to sickbay to find Moll and L'ak, they find a room with bedding and kids' clothes and a doll. It looks like people have been living here for a long time. There's a plaque on the wall. Seems like the junior science officer told the story of this ship. There was a rebellion after the Terran High Chancellor was killed for trying to make reforms. Enterprise escaped. They brought refugees with them, and they attempted to flee their universe for this universe, and they were led by a rebel leader who was a Kelpian. So Saru. And the question is, did they make it? Obviously, they got there and they ejected all their ships, but did they make it to the other side out of interdimensional space? Michael, for reasons that will become obvious later, takes a locket from the belongings. Meanwhile, they get to sickbay. They open the doors. Moll and L'ak have a ton of holodoubles, so there's like 10 Moll and L'ak's. Book and Michael can't get to the holo generator, so they're gonna have to go in either way. They go in and shoot, pew 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 pew. Michael tries to get them to talk, like, we could talk about this, and Book tries to go, I knew your father, he was a good man, and Moll's like, my father was garbage, you turd. And then L'ak is like, you can't kill us because we have the clue, and he holds up the clue And so Moll tries to use that to leverage the advantage. Like, we can all go back. Even, obviously, our ship is damaged, but if you take us back in the shuttle, we'll let you replicate this clue, and then we go our own way. But then Michael's like, hey, I have the real clue. It's this locket. Ha, 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 ha. It's a bluff. And Michael says, listen, Federation can help. But as conversation gets heated, we find out that that what they're really needing help from is getting rid of an Eriga. What? What's that?
I had to rewind. I'm like, what?
Me too. I was like, am I supposed to know what an Eriga is? I was like, Erica? An Eriga, as explained seconds later, but, dropped pretty hard, is a Breen blood bounty. Say that 5 times fast. L'ak, it is then revealed, is Breen. We've never seen Breen without their helmets Breens. So this is exciting. This was the talk of the first episode. We're like, what is L'ak, baby? Emerald green, bad boy. Breen, apparently. So what did they do that caused the Breen to put an Eriga on them? Well, get ready for flashback. That was my flashback music. Imagine yourself on a Breen courier, and there's Moll, and you know that it's earlier in her life because her hair is longer, and she's talking to a Breen courier, and they say, someone wants to talk to you here in the loading docks, and Breen in a helmet approaches and says, word is your dilithium has been cut with impurities, and I need to inspect, and he goes to inspect. They fight, and Moll recognizes the Breen, as they fight, that this Breen has the insignia of royalty, and knows that there are rumors that the Primarch's nephew is not quite fitting in with the Breen hegemony. I don't know what they call their thing. They mentioned it a couple times, but there's a lot of Breen stuff. And she says, so I know it's you, L'ak, because I know all the scuttlebutt. And she's like, listen, I can help you get payback. And after some back and forth, they decide to make a deal to do shaving a little latinum off the top of things. Back to the present. Michael sees all that in their eyes and says, listen, don't let you guys being in love with each other take you down the wrong road. We know where that's, me and Book know all about that. And Book's like, you got choices. But they go back into a firefight and they bang into some stuff, and then sickbay goes into a lockdown, and so there's the force field screens, and Michael and L'ak are trapped in sickbay, and Book and Moll are trapped outside of sickbay. And so they have to do a standoff. They have to come with a truce so that Book and Moll can go back to the bridge and try to bring down these shields so that everyone can get out of there. Back to the flashback, we see that Moll and L'ak, a little while later, a romance of sorts has evolved between these two smugglers, the charismatic courier Moll and the charismatic Breen foot soldier who's been demoted to, dock duty. We see Moll giving L'ak some latinum. There's an invitation to come back to her ship, suggestively. And Moll wants to see L'ak's other face, and so they hide in her shuttle, and he reveals to her his second Breen face, this, what would you call it, energy face? Breen energy face?
It felt, maybe it's felt liquidy.
Liquid Universi, species 8675339.
Hard to say.
Yeah. It's hard to say, but obviously she understands. There's some context here that we sort of understand from their conversation, that the Breen have two faces. I think she knows about the two faces because they have lain together in a biblical way. And so they have shared secrets about one another with one another. And so she goes, oh yes, you have a secret face, my darling L'ak. Show it to me. Your face is part of you. And he says, sure. And she calls him Green Eyes, by the way, right? Green Eyes? Eyes of green? I should have written down her cute nickname for him. Anyway, they've been doing it. And so I think that's why she knows the secrets.
This is a classy show. Classy and mature.
I'm using euphemisms. I said doing it. Like a 13-year-old.
That's what I
Back
meant.
to the present. Okay, well, it's PG-13. Back to the present. Moll promises Book, hey, when we get these containment fields down, the truce is over. And Book's like, listen, I know that the other Book 4 stayed away from you and your mother, but he did it to protect you. Lame excuse. I was like, yeah, well, he promised to come from Caller 5, but one day he just stopped coming home, and then her mother had to get a job in the mines, and she died when Moll was 14, and Moll was all on her own, and she's like, so L'ak is the only thing that matters to me at all. Meanwhile, in sickbay, Michael and L'ak are just, in their standoff, but kind of getting bored of just standing off with one another. And Michael is able to sort of get L'ak to say, like, hey, if we were to come with you and like did do our time, would we be able to do our time together? Because he reiterating what Moll said to Book, I'd rather die than be separated from her. But L'ak is like, the only thing that matters is if we can get this Eriga dropped, and they are very hard to get Erigas dropped. On the bridge, security system is firewalled. Book tries to reach out to Moll, explaining that he and Michael were couriers for a year or two before the Federation stuff happened. And the Book, he says that Book 4, his mentor, Brooklyn Cleaver the Fourth, talks a lot about Moll, and that it was clear that he loved her, and he apologizes for what she went through, hating her father for a long time. Back in the flashback, Moll and L'ak doing a little kissy late at night on the deck of the Breen ship. Dude, do we have a kissy song?
Kissy.
Yeah, we do. That's what they're doing.
So mature. This is absolutely on theme for us.
It shows that there's precedent for me calling it doing it. Oh God, that really distracted me. Oh, so Moll has new contacts in the Emerald Chain, and she's gonna have to go away because she needs to make more latinum, and she's like, sort of inviting L'ak to go with her, and L'ak is like, what do you need all the latinum for? And she explains that there's a colony in the Gamma Quadrant that she could go to, and she invites him to go, and then they are discovered by the Breen Primarch of the Sixth Flight, who marches over to their hiding space, takes down the hollow, and they are revealed. Back to present day, Moll is done waiting. She's going to make a power surge that could, sort of cause everything in the ship to shut down. However, she does it impulsively and causes an explosion, which causes the ship to go into a spiral. There's no control. The fields do go down. Michael and L'ak, meanwhile, in the sickbay, start to fight, and Michael obviously bluffing with the clues, trying to get the clue away from L'ak. The impulse engines overload. The disco shuttle is torn away. Now they're stuck. They're going to have impact with the wormhole aperture in 8 minutes. Moll tries to tell Book to stay behind, but he says he won't let anything happen to Michael or to Moll because of their relationship. He offers up his phaser and gives her a choice, and she says, fine, come with me. And they go to head to Michael and L'ak. In sickbay, Michael and L'ak are fighting. Michael tries to get him to stop. She's eyeing the clue. He doesn't see what's going on. They fight. Michael's able to get the clue, but she has to do a suplex on L'ak, and she throws him into some glass, which cuts through his cool suit, and he's got an injury in his chest, and that's when Moll arrives. So then she's super pissed off, and then Michael's like, we got to get him to Discovery, and she's like, don't touch him. And then Michael and Book have to book it back to the bridge in order to try and get the ship, to not turn into, I don't know, cloud dust. Another flashback. After they've been discovered, Moll is being beaten up by the Bree, and L'ak is being ordered not to interfere, and then his uncle says that L'ak insults his heritage by conforming with lesser beings and using his solid face. He should be what he could be, and the uncle reveals his face, his liquid Breen face, and he gives L'ak a weapon, and he says there's only one path to redemption, indicating that L'ak must kill Moll to prove that he can be redeemed. And Moll says, hey, well, it was great while it lasted, Green Eyes. See you on the other side. But then L'ak is like, you know what? For love, I'll do anything. And so he shoots the two captors.
Wait, go back. You have to do, is it Bryan Adams?
And I would do it. What, Meatloaf?
Meatloaf.
For love.
Do it.
And I would do anything for love. Yeah, sure. I can sing Meatloaf in the morning.
You kind of cut out in the last bit there, but
well,
we'll
that could have been the internet, could have been my voice. What he does for love, Meatloaf style, is shoot the two captors and turns and wounds his uncle. Couldn't kill him because he's like, hey, that man raised me. And his uncle, right before he shoots him, utters simply the word Erica. blood bounty. And then L'ak is like, you must go with me. And he's like, you can't, because they'll be hunting me. You should go to the Gamma Quadrant and save yourself. And she's like, I'd rather we be hunted, but be happy together. Back to the present day, Michael and Book are trying to save the ship. They activate a tractor beam. We go back to Disco. They realize something is happening with the aperture. The tractor beam is coming out of the aperture, and it's giving an oscillating pattern of 3414. Rayner, has a revelation. He has the science team come to the bridge, and he tells them they need to hold the aperture open and make it big enough for a starship. And they ask how he knows that, and he says, Battle of Krull. I can't tell you, but Michael mentioned it earlier he doesn't say all this, but we know that Michael mentioned the Battle of Krull earlier in the Ready Room. Rayner offers a barrel of citrus mash for anyone who can come up with a solution to keep the aperture open. Reese comes up with the original idea, but then the science team figures it out and everybody helps to do it. And so he's a mash all around. Teamwork makes the dream work. Adira says there has to be a sequential hexagonal pattern of antimatter that is shot with the torpedoes to hit the aperture, and that it would stay open for 60 seconds. And they go to red alert, baby.
Red alert.
Our red alert is so pleasant. Red alert.
I do love a red alert. That was my dad.
Red alert.
I know, it's your dad. He'd make a great red alert announcer.
Well,
Don't panic. But red alert. Oh, he is one?
Well, he did that one. So technically, he is a red
Well,
alert.
no. I thought you were going to be like him.
I mean, it's like, I'm going to inform you that there is something dangerous afoot, and you're going to feel somewhat calm and walk calmly to the exits. Red alert.
Don't everybody freak out.
Red alert. Don't worry.
Right. It's just an alert. Back in the wormhole, in case they don't make it, Michael finally reveals to Book that one of the things in the time cycle, which are obviously confidential because time stuff, it's like one of the nice things was running into you in the past, and it was nice. We were happy. Disco fires on the wormhole aperture. The aperture opens. The tractor beam makes contact. They have 20 seconds to try and make it. They just make it. The wormhole closes, implodes, and everyone is cheering. Hooray, we did it. But then the ISS Enterprise is preparing to fire, and they're like, what? But it's not a torpedo. It's a pod with Moll and L'ak on it, probably. And the Enterprise tries to grab it, but as they shoot out with the ship and then immediately go to warp. So they have a warp signature, but they don't have Moll and L'ak, who got away. Last known, we know that L'ak was injured, so maybe they're going to go get for help. I don't know. I don't need to anticipate the next episode. Then it is revealed later on as Michael and Rayner are walking down the corridor. Section 4, verse 7 of the Ballad of Krull. Krull calls to his war brothers for rescue with a repeating drumbeat, 3 taps, then 414. And that is how Michael was able to communicate with Rayner. Number 1 and Captain. It's great when they have their little shorthands. Michael tells Rayner to take the win. We once again see, taken out of into meta world, I feel like the actors Owo and Detmer were not able to get back for some reshoots, and so they're once again mentioned significantly but not shown. And they are flying the Enterprise ISS back to Federation storage, so they take over that ship, and there's a reason for them not to be there, I guess. Finally, we get to Reds, where Linus is playing a little jazz piano. Hello, Linus, man of many talents. Wow.
I thought, was it Reese who was on the piano with him, just like hanging out?
I think so, yeah.
I thought Reese was about to start singing. I was waiting for it.
That would have been super weird if Reese had been like
singing, but
yeah. Grab your coat and get your hat. I mean, Star Trek has done stranger things. I'm glad that's not what occurred. Culber finally meets Tilly. They talk for a bit, and we realize that Culber's feeling weird about his experiences of late. Obviously, in the course of all of Discovery, he died. He came back to life. Then he had Janal in his consciousness. Now this quest to find out about where all the origin of life in the galaxy comes from. It's exciting, these unknown things, but Paul apparently is not good with the unknown, and he doesn't know how to talk to him about it. And Tilly's like, hey, these are complicated times. You'll find a way. It's just don't freak out too much about science versus, sort of woo-woo weird stuff. That's just what we do here at the edge of Discovery. Meanwhile, Book and Michael have a little debrief. Moll and L'ak are still in the wind, but along with the clue was a vial of some sort of juice or liquid. I'm going to go with juice.
DNA juice. People juice.
DNA juice.
Not people juice. DNA juice.
DNA in a super saturated elixir. I don't know.
DNA
what would
soup?
you call it?
I thought that's what you said.
It's a soup. Let's call it soup.
Okay.
Yeah,
DNA
it's
soup.
a DNA soup. I could go for some DNA soup. And they are about to do a full chemical analysis of said DNA soup to find the next clue. And Book is like, there's a lesson with every clue. And they're like, yeah, of course, But what was the lesson here? Well, Michael's like, you know what? I looked up that junior science officer on the Terran ship who left a clue. They were the science officer. This is confusing. Basically, the science officer who left that clue was originally from the Terran Enterprise ship and was part of the group of refugees who did, in fact, make it to this universe. And many of them ended up in the Federation. She became a branch admiral. And then she vanishes because, as Janelle promised, they erased the stories of their lives in order to protect this technology. But we learn that the Terrans made it, that one of them worked their way up in the Federation, and that left that clue. And maybe that is the lesson, shaping the future despite impossible odds. The Enterprise heads out, and Samus is ready for the vial. And here endeth episode 5 of season 5 of Star Trek Discovery. Let's chat about that.
I say, darling, let's do a quick chat about that.
Yes,
let's do.
Huzzah.
Huzzah.
What an episode.
What an episode.
A Breen reveal was very exciting.
I'm so surprised that, after 60 years off Trek, we're still able to dig into old pieces of Trek that never really got fully explored.
Well, because I think of the way Trek was so episodic, you just have all these lore things that were mentioned for 1 hour, and then anyway we flew to the next M-class planet, and an enterprising nerd can get down there in those details and string some stories together. But that's very cool. And now we know why they kept mentioning the Breen every episode in such a significant way.
Yes.
And don't forget about the Breen. I was like, what?
I just love, there's Easter eggs from here to Kingdom Come. And I feel like Discovery's doing that far more this season than it's ever done.
I think they're trying to wrap up. They're trying to bring as many threads into this final knot of the Discovery thing as they can. I wonder what else they will. I mean, every episode, you're right. The last 2 or 3 episodes has been Easter egg central.
And then thinking about OO and Detmer when they couldn't get back for the reshoots, because that was last episode too. So that's a significant part of the season that's been reshot.
Yeah. I mean, it just seems like this is just a theory, but the fact that they keep mentioning them so much, but only showing them for 40s. When did we see them? Last episode, we saw them in the flashback when they did the time jump.
Yeah.
Right. And then again in present day when they're like, I'm surprised we didn't kill you, Captain, so we saw them in their 2 different modes, old them and new them, but then every other time has been what was just here.
But if
you just missed
right
it.
And if they're gonna fly this ship back, are they essentially being written out of the rest of the season because they couldn't come back to the reshoots?
I'm curious. I don't want to dig in too much and find out, but I'm curious. I bet we can find it. Maybe. Do you still watch the after show?
I do.
I'm wondering if they ever speak about how much was rewritten once it was revealed that this was the final season.
So far they haven't, and and one thing that they've done with the Ready Room this season for Discovery, it's far shorter. Ready Room episodes were originally they were, when Discovery first came out, they were maybe 40 minutes. They went down to about 35, and they kind of stayed around 30. Now they're 15. They've significantly decreased how long they are. And I don't know why that is, whether it's because they just weren't getting the views that they wanted, or they were finding maybe that was some feedback that people didn't want an episode of the Ready Room that was almost as long as an episode of Trek. Right. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. Or they wanted something that was more bite-sized for web. Who knows?
I occasionally skip over the Ready Room stuff online because, I don't want to watch it till the show's over.
Yeah, but it's great. And you get some little tidbits about the show, like, for instance, Rayner, Callum Rennie McIntosh, I think is his name, which is ridiculously Scottish if his last name is McIntosh. Maybe I'm making that up because of the Charles Rennie McIntosh. Maybe that's what it is and I'm mixing it up. But it's definitely Callum Rennie anyway. And I feel like it's a 3 name. He revealed that, the tete-a-tete that he and Michael were having on the walk and talk, where he revealed some backstory about Kelleran, that was something that he was able to add.
Oh, that's
yes,
cool.
Yes, it is cool. Because he was, he said that, he was a real fan of TOS when it was in syndication. And learning about his role with DS9, and he was also became through the ages, but TOS was his original. And when he learned he was going to be a Kelleran, then what kind of backstory could he add? So he's a big fan, and I love learning about these things.
I think that's wonderful. I just don't want to know until I need you to filter out any possible spoilers.
But it's do you mean spoilers for the rest of it? There aren't.
Just in case they're like, oh, we might. Sometimes I feel like they tease you with something, and then that gets stuck in my head, and then I start trying to anticipate who done it or whatever, and I don't want to do that.
Okay.
I do often want. Anyway, his name is Callum Keith Rennie.
Thank you, Callum Keith Rennie.
Yes.
That's very Scottish.
It's very Scottish.
Very Scottish.
Callum Keith Rennie.
Callum Keith
no?
Rennie.
Callum Keith
Rennie.
R's hard. Callum Keith Rennie.
Very good.
I'll work on it. It's been a while.
I can't wait to see Scotty
been a
again
while.
for Strange New World season 3.
Oh man, yeah.
An authentic Scot
but now I know.
playing Scotty.
It's great.
About
Yes.
time, says I.
Says I. Well, they couldn't do it before. Anyway. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Set Phasers. We go immediately, as always, to the Easter egg desk with Stevie Man. Stevie, how are you today?
Well, hi there again. Well, it is a delight to be back on my Easter egg desk. So many Easter eggs today.
And I will run through them quickly because there's plenty of them.
There's so many.
So many. The wormhole that Book and Burnham have to enter is unstable, which describes most wormholes. But in this case, it suggested that the antimatter-matter reactions in this wormhole were caused by the burn, which was this galaxy-changing event in season 3 of Discovery when every warp core in the galaxy detonated. So a little bit of fun there. We obviously had the ISS Enterprise, which we were teased with, I forget when, but we were quite early on.
Oh my God.
Might have been in the trailer, actually.
That's
Was
right.
it in the
yes,
trailer? Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so.
And Book says right away, ISS, that's Mirror Universe. And we hear the Mirror Universe music.
Yes, we
Delightful. This is a huge Easter egg, and various other Easter eggs follow. The ISS Enterprise was last seen in Star Trek canon in the original series, episode Mirror, Mirror. So chronologically, in both our world and the Trek timeline, this is its second appearance, which is super fun. Whoa.
Indeed.
The bridge and sick bay of the ISS Enterprise are, I'm sure you would have noticed, the sets from Strange New Worlds.
Yes.
So Discovery was filmed between seasons of Strange New Worlds. So it looks very, very familiar. There are several versions of the Terran Empire logo that are seen throughout this ship, which match with the Terran Empire logo from Discovery Season 1 and 3, which differ from the Terran logo from the original series.
Yes. Yes.
Eagle eye there.
Yes.
And let's see, we have Mirror Spock, and Burnham says, she references, and she's like, oh, that was my brother's station. And, Book reads the version of the story where he says the Terran High Chancellor was killed for trying to make reforms. And in the Deep Space Nine episode crossover, we learned that the leader of the Terran Empire was Spock, and that Spock was trying to reform the Terran Empire, led to Earth being taken over in the 24th century by the Cardassian-Klingon alliance. And so, she says, I'm sure he was just as ruthless as the rest, though, which we know is not true from the rest of Trek canon.
Yeah.
And he, in fact, Mirror Spock spared Prime Kirk in Mirror Mirror to then become leader of the entire Terran Empire.
That's right.
Super fun.
You've got it.
Let's see, we had Saru in the Mirror Universe. So Book mentions that the ISS Enterprise escaped with the help of a Kelpian.
The help of a
Kelpian.
Kelpian.
Slave turned rebel leader, obviously referencing the events of Terra Firma Part 2 from Discovery Season 3. So I love that we're referencing our own season there. So this is when Georgia went back to the mirror universe and created a kind of pocket timeline in which she died at a different time, and Saru was free to become a rebel leader. And at that time, it wasn't clear if this changed the timeline of the mirror universe or the timeline of Discovery Season 1, but the mention of a mirror Saru, who is a rebel, suggests that some version of the timeline might have occurred after all.
Hello.
Woo. Now, the Breen. I have 8 fun facts about the Breen.
8 fun facts. Let's do
that
this.
we learned from the Breen in this episode. So, we have... Number 1, we learned that L'ak is a Breen. So, yes, we'll just go with that.
Number 1.
We knew that something was coming, but we weren't sure what it was. So
we didn't know it was going to be that.
We didn't know, and so the flashback that we get confirms that he's a Breen, albeit without the helmet and refrigeration suit. Number 2, Moll used to sell dilithium to the Breen Imperium, and she was cutting the dilithium supply with impurities, so the Breen supply was considerably watered down. We also learn that the Breen, number 3, placed a blood bounty on Moll and L'ak, which is this Eriga. Can they erase an Eriga? This is a beautiful name. And an Eriga is an aspect of Breen culture that wasn't previously mentioned in the species' multiple appearances in DS9. So it's unclear how one collects a blood bounty, but they do seem to be terribly troubled by it, which I can understand.
Yes.
Number 4, the Breen atmosphere is quite comfortable, just as DS9's Wayon says it was. It has long been speculated that the Breen lived in sub-zero temperatures. Guldakat and Cork referred to their planet as a frozen wasteland. But Moll isn't visiting the Breen homeworld in this episode. She's in their territory, and she doesn't need to wear any protective clothing. Yeah. So, we can assume that it is quite a comfortable temperature. Number 5, the Breen Primarch is L'ak's uncle. Aha. And that, L'ak himself is sort of royal blood. And he is disgusted at the uncle by L'ak's relationship with Moll and his insistence in denying his own heritage. Number 6, the Breen Imperium destroyed the Federation in an alternate future. And they are the wrong hands that the progenitor must not fall into. We discovered this in Face the Strange. And number 6, I think, the Breen bleed, or leak at the very least. That is what we discover. And which is interesting.
Green Vulcan blood.
With their translucent jelly kind of, it's interesting.
I guess if he had been more liquidy, he wouldn't have been hurt more? I don't know.
Yes. In fact, going back, so in Deep Space Nine, in Purgatory's Shadow, Season 5, Episode 14, Dr. Julian Bashir confidently states that the Breen have no liquid circulatory system. And Star Trek Discovery appears to reveal that this isn't the case, and he appears to bleed. It's not that they're sort of contradicting it, but it's like, wow, something's happening, and we're not entirely sure what. But.
Listen, Julian was full of it. He lied about being genetically enhanced for 5 seasons.
Yeah. Well, you could tell me that. I don't know. And
I'm just letting you know.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't trust Julian Bashir.
Don't trust that Dr. Bashir. And number 7, the Breen. Sorry, number 8. I'm totally losing track. Number 8.
8, good lord.
The Breen have 2 faces. So we also discover that underneath their helmets, one face is translucinous, and here's a good word, gelatinous.
Gelatinous. Yes.
And the other is a solid, firmly humanoid state. What's interesting is that Discovery doesn't dive deeper into the reasons for the Breen having 2 faces. And Primarch Rune suggests that, they've evolved past their solid forms and that their translucent form is a sign of strength. So it's terribly, terribly interesting. And still, the idea that the Breen's softer, more vulnerable face is stronger than the hard shell is a decent sci-fi concept. And I hope that we will get to discover more in Discovery later this season. Well, anyway, Aki, that is it from me on the Easter egg desk. It is back to you in the studio.
Yes, salute to you. And now I'm British, and we'll move on to quotable moments.
Quotable moments.
No matter how bad things get. Oh, yeah. I added the oh, yeah. The one thing you always have is a choice. That's Buck. Thinking at the beginning, that's something he learned from his mentor, and that he presents Moll with when he gives her his phaser, and he says, look, now I'm a weaponless, now you have a choice. Let's see. Mentioning the Ballad of Krull, Michael quotes it, and I think I wrote it down right. When she tells Rayner to give it to her straight, she says, serve it without a grum of Asakad. Put that on a t-shirt.
Well,
Someone
Etsy's
will.
for.
Hey, DM me. Obviously, I don't know. I don't need to know how the cake is boiled, Commander. And then Tilly says, they boil their cakes on Kelleran? And Rayner says, don't knock it until you try it. So maybe we'll see some boiled cake later in this season. Oh, when they find out that there is a Kelpian helper who helped the rebels rebel, book says, Action Saru in any universe. So Action Saru. Mirror Terran Saru and regular Saru, they're Action Saru. I also, here's a cute moment. When Moll and L'ak are, this might be pre-kissy-kissy or post-kissy-kissy, but Moll's like, hey, why don't you come back to my ship and check something out, man? Check out some of this dilithium. And L'ak's like, I wish I could. My uncle's coming down for inspection. I need to shine my boots. And then Moll says, is that a euphemism? And then L'ak says, no, he just really likes for our boots to be shiny. That was very cute. Very cute. Hey, listen, you think I won't watch a spinoff about their love affair? I will. I'll watch the rom-com. Book talking about Michael. She was my first real friend after Cleveland died, unless you count Grudge, but she bites when I don't feed her, so it's a bit one-sided.
I like
fair.
that.
That's
That's
cats,
good.
baby. That's cats. Do you have any, or should I?
No, I think you got them all.
just,
Keep
okay,
going.
because I crushed it this time. And then finally, Michael to Moll to convince her that not Michael, Book to Moll to convince Moll that he is, willing to work with her. He says, of Cleveland Booker IV, he may have been a shit dad to you, but he was a great mentor to me. And that's why he won't leave Moll or Michael behind. And then finally, Tilly. Come on, Tilly bringing it all home in Reds. Whenever she's talking to the doctor, she says they're not really that far apart. The intellectual and the spiritual both reach for understanding. Both bring us to new places. Come on, Tilly. Come on, Tilly.
Tilly, don't be silly. Tilly, space is wide. Clearly it gets chilly. Tilly, it's your time.
What is that last word? Tilly, it's your time. Got it. I thought it was like.
I figured it was Tilly's
jive.
time to shine. Time.
Tilly.
Listen, it's your time. I was going for the thing where you never finish saying the word. It's just time, and then
Got
fades. Wow, I really haven't heard that in so long, and it's very sweet.
This is a shorter one if you want a short one.
It's a short one, and it's short and sweet. All right. Well,
It's your time.
it really puts me in the mind of like I'm watching a 70s Peanuts cartoon or something. It's so sweet. I don't know how I did it. I couldn't replicate it now.
Next time on Set Phasers.
Next time on Set Phasers, we will be discussing episode 6 of Star Trek Discovery, and it is entitled, I looked it up, very weirdly, it's entitled Whistle Speak. That's it. So who knows what that's going to be. But thank you so much for listening to this program. If you enjoyed it, you can find other such programs recorded by us wherever you get your podcasts from, and also in other places, apparently. Stevie?
Yes, we are now on the YouTube.
YouTube. Can YouTube?
Yes, you too can YouTube. YouTube with us. Do subscribe. We're at Set Phasers Podcast on YouTube. And my shorts game is on fire right now.
Truly on fire.
Truly.
I'm shocked.
Yeah.
I'm not shocked.
I'm
but,
shocked.
It's a nice surprise.
We went a little viral last week. A little video about our 40-year mystery, 47-year mystery, went a little viral.
A little video.
Yes, it did.
It went a little
Yes, it
viral.
did.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
It did.
So do follow us there. You can listen to the podcast on YouTube Music if you prefer, or watch the video version there, or you can get some of the quick clips of, our Easter eggs, our Star Trek news time. Some of perhaps our quotable moments will be there. But whatever you desire in Star Trek universe and galaxy and world, we have it for you, and it is at our YouTube channel, Set Phasers Podcast.
Yes. Also, you can join us on our Patreon if you want to discover more of what Discovery has in store for us. God, that wordplay I haven't used in 4 years. Go to patreon.com/setphasers and join the conversation. We are running out of time to do our monthly viewer thing, but I will do something. this month or early in May. So if you join up soon, you could join us in watching. Maybe we'll watch a little, I don't know. Gosh, there's so many episodes being referenced. We'll have to watch something.
We have to watch the chase.
We got to
Oh,
watch the chase. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that is it from me. I am Stevie Bands.
And you want me to take the win? I can do that. And this has been Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Computer. End program.